I, I want to thank everyone for coming in tonight. We have two terrific presenters, and we thank our sponsors, which is American Photography, Archive Magazine, Epson, Photo Shelter, Pro Photo Daily, and American Photography. Tonight we have Jaime Carrero who'll be presenting, and we start off with Carell Augustus, who will talk about his terrific new book. So, Carell, the stage is yours.
I'm going to start with this shot. So I did a book that published in October of 2022, where I recreated iconic scenes in movies and images with African-American celebrities, entertainers. And for me, mostly it was about wanting to create a space to be creative and knowing that you possess a certain skill as far as lighting and composition and being molded into the artist that I have become from watching all this stuff my entire life, and mixed in with not particularly seeing people that look like me in these roles. So as a kid, watching Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair or people that I loved, and didn't have a choice but to love them, and still do, but for some reason figuring that was a standard that I was never supposed to be a part of from watching it. And as I grew, I knew that was just based on imagery, and it was based on popularity. And so what I decided to do is take some of the moments that I remember the most, whether it's watching Breakfast at Tiffany's with my grandmother or watching one of my favorite characters, Marty McFly. I just wanted to take all those movies that I had seen and ingested as a kid and just put a twist on them. I think it's made some people don't understand it, and some people get uncomfortable, which is understandable, but it's art. At the end of the day, it's just art. And of course, people want to make a political comparison, and I'm willing to have those conversations too, but at the core of this whole entire thing, it's art. So I'm starting with this gentleman here. His name is actor Cedric Sanders. He was most recently in the Michael Bay film Ambulance. And this shot is a Sean Penn movie called At Close Range. And I remember watching that movie as a kid and just being sort of enamored with the acting and the lighting. And when the promos for the movie came out, it was Sean Penn standing in front of a ripped sort of screen. He was backlit. It was very cool. He had a really intense stare on his face. So as I was pulling my project together, I would see certain shots that certain people would pop up in my head, like, oh, if I were to cast this in 2021, 22, 23, or whatever, I could see this person like playing this role. And I was thinking this long before The Little Mermaid, just so everybody know that. Anyway, so I said, I would approach the people, the actors, and say, hey, I'm really interested in shooting you and putting you in this space. Do you see it? And he goes, yeah, these people are actors, they're performers, and they love being in front of the camera. So this is one of my favorite because I don't have the originals here, but if you look up the originals, one thing I like to do most is I try to get as close to the original as possible. And I try to do things in post, as the last resort. And this is At Close Range, but it just features my good.
Are you cropped out, Carell? Are you cropped out on the right side? Because it seems like it's cropped on the right. We're seeing we don't see the full image of him. We see now you're coming across. Yeah, now it's perfect. Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
It was. I saw that line and I didn't know what that line was.
Okay.
But
now you're good. Now you're absolutely perfect.
See, right. Every time I hit full screen, it does that. So this may have to just work for what it is, guys.
Okay.
I'm not sure why it's doing it.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect.
That's perfect. So we'll move on to Basic Instinct. This is with the lovely, beautiful Lauren London. I was on a job with Sharon Stone like 3 or 4 years ago. And when I was shooting, I had wristbands that said Black Hollywood Book Project. And so often I would be on set with people who I actually modeled my shot after, because they made the shot famous. And we all know what this shot was, with her being like intimidated, not intimidated, what's the word? She's been interrogated. Sorry. She's been interrogated by all these cops, and she was just owning her sexuality and owning her attitude. And I had the luxury of showing Sharon Stone this particular picture. And I asked her, I said, hey, would you mind wearing a wristband that says Black Hollywood for me to get a picture? She goes, no, baby, because I'm nothing but white chocolate.
There you go.
So that was very, very cool. And she's very, very supportive. And she told me, you know, when you're done, I would love to get a copy of the photograph. And I just love meeting the people that inspired the shot. And they're supportive and nice and friendly, because I have a couple stories where they weren't that way.
Yeah, and Carell,
Yes.
is it like to get the talent to do the shot that you want to do? I mean, part of the convincing piece of this, you know, can you shed any light on that? You know, like approaching somebody, this is what I want to do, and you know, how did those conversations go?
Yeah. So when I was approaching people, I was really confident in the shots. Maybe I think I shot 72 people for my book. And I think out of everybody I asked, maybe 3 people weren't comfortable with the idea that I brought to them, but most people were. I remember asking Kel Mitchell if he would want to do American Psycho, which is about, you know, the guy, serial killer, narcissist. And because of his own Christian beliefs, he said, you know, that one I'm going to stay away from, which I was fine with, which told me I need to find something a little more wholesome. So we did Forrest Gump. And American Psycho went to Jay Ellis. So it was a sweet dance between choosing a shot that I know I wanted to do and I had to do, and finding the person to do it and feel comfortable and give themselves to it, because I wanted everybody to feel comfortable in the shot that I was asking them to do.
Yeah. And was there anyone, like any shot that you wanted to do and you had that person in your head, this has to be her, or this has to be him, and they saw it the same way?
Yeah, there was a couple shots that I wanted very, specific people for, and it didn't happen. And once I got an idea in my head, I was like a bulldog. Like I wasn't going to stop. I wasn't going to acquiesce. And at some point, when people don't schedule after like 2 years and people don't show up and they don't give you their sizes, then you have to sort of put a period and move on, and hopefully find somebody where that shot will work better for.
Yeah.
So Blair Underwood was not my original choice for Here's Johnny, but it worked out to where he was the best choice for it. And so much of me shooting for this book on a shoestring budget happened that way. And I just wanted it to all happen naturally and not happen. I didn't want to force anything, because we all were showing up doing it for the same reasons. When I was shopping around to get my book deal, some questions were being asked of me, as like, how do we put these pictures in context? How do we talk about them? How do we sell them? How do we get people engaged? And I said, well, every single person I asked to shoot for my book, and this is true, out of everybody, nobody asked me why. So if we can start there, I'm willing to move forward and continue the conversations. But to prevent people feeling bent out of shape, it's just art, you know? And when I show Sharon Stone a photo of that she made famous and she approves, it feels really, really good.
There you go.
Yeah, so we'll go to the next. Oh, this is one of my favorites. Obviously, this is based on the movie Back to the Future. I sort of fudged the name a little bit, which we did not use in the book. We did not use the name in the book because we wanted to prevent lawsuits. And there's something about fonts that, you know, you can't use the exact font that they used in the movie. And I thought the picture itself told the story, and I didn't have to I was fine not using the name. You know, if I have when I have a gallery show one day, maybe this is the one I'll display, and, you know, somebody will buy it. But this is obviously based on one of my most favorite characters ever is Marty McFly, and in his time machine, the DeLorean, Back to the Future. And when I asked Mr. Mark Samuels to model for this, he was just stoked about it. And obviously, a lot of this is in post. I try to do everything in camera, but if I'm going to have to resort to making you believe it's real in post, then I just do it the best way that I can. And pulling the vest and pulling his jeans and the watch and the glasses, and throwing the car in there with the fire streaks was just phenomenal. It's one of my favorite shots from the book. So yeah, and it's also in the 2023 calendar that we had this past year. It's one of my favorites. So that's Back to the Future. I like this because I'm not sure what's popping up, but I like talking about it. Here's Johnny. This is Mr. Blair Underwood, who's been in Hollywood for 40 years. TV, film, just doing his thing. And I really wanted to give him a shot that was done by a huge actor. I didn't want to give him like Herbie the Love Bug or something crazy like that. I wanted to give him something that was iconic and straight to it and easy to shoot. So the cool thing about this shot is my friend who's the art director who did it, he was so worried about finding a door that we could like break through and create the axe coming through the door. And I said, listen, I've been doing this long enough. You don't need a door. What you need is 2 pieces of wood, and we're going to chop those up and make a, it's a tight shot. So it's just going to be his face and the 2 pieces of slab wood, and people's brains are going to fill in the rest. And we did that, and we ended up with this shot. So when you look at it, you think you might be looking at a door, but you're not. And these are the things in photography I really wish people talked about, because I remember looking at certain shots and trying to figure out how they did it, and it was all post. I mean, now it's all AI, so nothing's real. You have to question everything. But I try really hard to focus on doing things in camera mostly. And this was all done in camera. And,
your advertising. They're figuring out a way.
I'm so sorry.
You do advertising. You're you're always figuring out a way when you shoot for advertising, with props and everything else to make it real. Yeah, that's great.
You have to figure out a way, and it's in my day-to-day photography. When I shoot for different clients, I think they're really happy because I have become way more craftier than I need to be. But I've always had an appreciation for art department because they make things happen, and I've seen them do so many things. But this was a lot of fun to shoot. I have a great behind the scenes YouTube channel called Black Hollywood Book Project, and you see me creating all these shots and shooting it. So this is one of the last ones I shot for this book, and he was just so gracious, and up to where I actually put a C-stand with like a piece of red ribbon on it to try to get him to look at it, because from the movie, Jack Nicholson is trying to see the girl that's in the bathroom. And I said, okay, we're going to have to figure out just to make him like he's almost trying to force his way in there. And because he's an actor, right on the side of the door, we had some foam so his face wouldn't get hurt. I'm giving everybody all my secrets, but that's what you have to do. You have to look after the talent. And he even said to me, oh my God, you guys thought of everything. So that's cool. Yeah. So that's one of my favorites too. Miss Vanessa Williams, the first Black Miss America, beauty queen, Vanessa Williams. Once again, when you are going to be asking Vanessa Williams to shoot for a book that you don't even know if it's going to come out or not, you just want to stack images, you have to really show and prove to her that you really want her in it. And I wanted to shoot her as Cleopatra. And it was very important for me to get the set just as stylized as possible. And when I met with her to discuss the shot, I hadn't even thought about guys. She said to me, she goes, are you going to have me some hot guys? I'm like, oh my God, I don't have a budget, but yeah, of course. So I had to go. This is LA, so it wasn't hard to find guys with abs. So I had a couple of friends and I'm like, hey, I'll pay you $100. You come out for the day and shoot with Vanessa Williams. And it's one of my it's one of the earliest shots that I did, but I was so happy because she's such an icon and a legend within her own right. And she was so happy with the set and the dress and the hair and the makeup. And she really just gave herself to the image. And I'm just so grateful that it turned out the way that it did. And I lit this, that the behind this, that's a screen. That's a backdrop that looks like the sky. And then we had the guys come in and drape all of this fabric and pillows. And, it was just, it was such a great thing to experience. I'm actually re-experiencing it. Wow. Because what happens is you get so far on the other side of creating it. It's almost like it's another dimension, because I was in my mid-30s when I did that. I'm not anymore. And I had done so much since this that it reignites that thing that just is in all of us creatives to be creative. So that's what that came from. So,
and Carell, just one thing. So had you approached some talent and you said, I see you doing this, and they said, you know what, there's one I always wanted to do, and they convinced you to put them in a different one?
Yes.
If that story comes through, let us know.
Yes, I will. It's the Charlie Chaplin one. I'm not sure if it's here, but that did happen there. So this is based on the film Dial M for Murder. And this idea came to me, first off, I don't know if you could tell, I really tried to do things that I didn't need a whole, Vanessa Williams excluded, but I didn't want to spend a whole lot of money to try to do the shot. And it's all about lighting, a few props to get the idea across. And this is Nadine Ellis, who's a just phenomenal actress. And I remember talking to her in the beginning, and we all would watch a scene before we shot it, like on YouTube, and just figure out that the woman was scared, but she was confused, and the call was coming from within the house, and she didn't understand why, but he was in there. So, and when I was telling her all this stuff, I said, you're kind of scared, but you're and confused. And I caught her expression, which she has no idea this guy's creeping behind her. And I wanted to put him a little more in the shadow. And I wanted him sort of staring at her like prey. And when I was going back through all the shots I have done, this is the one that stuck out to me. And I was just so grateful for it. And it's literally one light. And I flagged off the light that from her to him by like a half a stop or something. And that's how we get her sort of lit up and him just like falling into the shadow, which loans itself to the idea of the shot in the movie. So that's Dial M. And one of the things I love to do with this is compare it to the actual scene. And it's pretty spot on with a couple, changes. I never tried to copy anything 100%. I always wanted to use it as inspiration because I know I couldn't for a myriad of reasons. And I didn't want people coming back to me saying, oh, you missed this. So I always say, listen, I'm redoing it, but I'm also adding a lot of artistic liberties to what I'm doing.
Smart.
So that's Dial M. And what's next?
So as you're doing this, and so now you complete it, are is there someone like your grandma, like you said, or your mom, like that you show this to, look what I ended up creating, looking for their approval? I mean, how was that, part of this experience for you? Because you watched all these characters, so many as a young boy, now you've done this, did you get feedback in that vein?
Yeah. So my family they've been really, really supportive. And to go back and witness my grandmother, who unfortunately passed before my book came out, although she had a wristband and she saw some of the shots and she got it. And she was very excited and she knew that I would finish. She knew that I would finish even when I didn't know I'd finish. And she told me it was going to be a success. And she told me not to quit my whole entire life. And So it's really important. The whole book is dedicated to her.
Yeah.
And to go back to with certain family members, remembering the summer of '87 when we all watched Dirty Dancing 19 times, and my cousins and I trying to learn the routines, or the Goonies. Yeah, it was a great walking down memory lane, and a lot of my family came out to LA for the launch party we had, and one cousin got so overwhelmed he started crying, and my brother, he said to me, he looked at me, he goes, "You did this for us, and it's so obvious." And I don't get choked up, but it's the beauty of what being creative allows you to do. And I was just so happy that they got it, because sometimes that part you can't really convey. It's a feeling. So yes, thank you. That was a great question. I appreciate that. Nobody's ever asked me that, and I've done a lot of radio shows and interviews, and so thank you so much. So you had an earlier question about an idea. Kelsey Scott, this is a woman, an actress, Kelsey Scott, and she said to me, she goes, "Carell, I love your idea, but I'm obsessed with Charlie Chaplin. Can we do that?" And I think she was the first person I did based on a real person. And I was like, that's what I want. I can't do everything. I don't know all things. So I would love to shoot yours, Charlie Chaplin. Let's talk about ideas and movements, and it's such a great spread in the book because it's her walking around as Charlie doing all these things that he did. And one of my favorite moments when I was shooting was I would greet the talent when they got into the studio, before anything happened, and say, then we go over some stuff. And then the next time I would see them, because I would be out lighting, they would be walking towards me as Cleopatra, as Marty McFly, as Charlie Chaplin. And that feeling, you can't capture it in a video, you can't record it. You literally just have to feel it.
And that's a dream realized, right? I mean, that moment for
Right.
you, the dream is realized.
It's a dream realized, and such a
Right.
great way to express it, because I thought about this stuff, 6-7 months before I actually shot. And then now I'm shooting and they're walking out to me and she's being Charlie Chaplin. And it was, that's what I'm addicted to, not necessarily,
Yeah.
the
rush.
but as artists, how, excuse me, when you have an idea and it comes to pass in real time, it's really phenomenal. It was one of my favorite moments every time, is watching them, seeing them after greeting, because I didn't want to be in the back when they were getting hair and makeup. I was too busy setting up lights and trying to make it easy, because I've discovered that people will give you their time if you do two things: feed them and not keep them all day. So my goal was to just get all this done as quickly as possible. And I think on average, we finished each shot in like 3 or 4 hours.
Wow. Wow.
So, and this portrait opens up her spread in my book. And as you can see, she's acting it out, and it says it all in her mannerisms in her face. So that's my favorites too. Okay, talk about artistic liberties. This is Don Benjamin as Edward Scissorhands. So in the movie, Edward Scissorhands, or Johnny Depp, he's carving ice, which is we see as snow. It's the only snow that happens in the movie. There's a shot where he's carving out Black Hollywood Book Project, and it's going everywhere. But I thought, this didn't happen in the movie. But I'm like, no, listen, he just made this snow. Everybody loves making snow angels. Let's just lay him down. And I've gotten some flack for that. People are like, oh, I don't remember him laying down in the snow. I said, well, he didn't, but I just took it to the level. I had the snow. It's fake snow. It looks so real and so good. I just thought, let me just throw this in here and see. And it was also like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge way to say, I know what I'm doing. This is basically a pun. And this is me being the artist that I'm trying to be. And he was fine with it. And I love the shot. And, maybe they'll release a version where Johnny Depp lays down. I don't know. But so yeah, that's based on Edward Scissorhands. And this is based on Fight Club. We don't talk about Fight Club. So this is Johnny, Wesley Jonathan, and all of them are him. He's everybody in the shot. And, these actors, this talent, they really like being performers. And when I explained to him, I said, hey, you're going to be everybody in the shot. He was like, okay, I'm down, sign me up, I'm with it. So it was fun to sort of dress him up all these different ways, keep the lighting in one spot and mark everywhere where everybody had to be so that the light just fell naturally on everybody, and composite it. I have an excellent compositor. He's so great. And when I showed Jonathan, he was just beside himself. And I think it turned out really well. And if you look up the original, you'll see that it's, aside from the different attire, it's pretty spot on. So I like it. I like it a lot. And plus, he wanted to be shirtless. And if I looked like that, I'd be shirtless right now. Okay. King Kong. So I live in Los Angeles, and I'm like, I can find the props everywhere. You can't find props in LA. You have to make them, or you have to figure out a way to do it. I had to build my floor for Saturday Night Fever. I'm not sure if that's here, but it may pop up. But this is, I think I say it in my book, this is my hand, because I looked and I looked and I looked I went to Halloween stores. The hands that they had were very, very plasticky, and it didn't look real. It looked synthetic, and it looked like almost like nylon or something. It just didn't look real. And I was researching, King Kong's hand or gorilla's hand or whatever. And I read a place where they have actual prints like we have. And I'm like, that can make it more realistic. And, if we puff, my fingers up and throw some fur on it, it could work. And so one day I went to Blick and literally painted my hand. There's a behind the scenes picture of my friend who shot my hand. And I was in Vegas, and I found this girl, this little porcelain girl on a shot glass. And I took her off the shot glass and I put her in my hand for shadows. And he shot over I lit it the same way. And he just shot over my shoulder. And we puffed it up, and we, because some of the stuff I found didn't work as far as other hands. And we just created, in my opinion, one of my most favorite shots. And from her perspective, or from our perspective, we're King Kong, and she's afraid of us. I always tell people, when you're by yourself, just kind of look at her and scream, and you'll get the effect for it. This is also the cover to our 2023 calendar with the lovely actress Rochelle Yates. And she just looks petrified and scared. And, when I look back at this stuff now, I'm just so grateful that everybody dug within themselves to give themselves to this idea.
So let me ask you this. Yeah. Is there a moment where, like, the ball starts rolling, right? And you get one actor and you get another. Does it become a little bit of a buzz, contact stuff? So, I'm trying to get to her. Do you have a contact? Just something like everybody sort of helps you in their own way to get to the next person and the next person.
Yeah, that happened a little bit, especially when I didn't have, I went to Cress Williams' house with nothing. I had no shots, no nothing. And I said, hey, this is an idea I have. And he goes, oh, I'd love to do it. And he was one of the first. There was another woman that I shot as Mommy Dearest. And she said to me, oh, and I'll help you get some more people. So that's all I needed to hear. And then, one person, and then it would sort of led out. Now that the book has come out, I think I've been hit up many times by people that's like, hey, I can't believe I'm not in this. And, I can't wait for volume 2. Make sure you hit me up. I haven't decided if I'm going to do a volume 2. I did just give the book to Janet Jackson a couple of weeks ago myself. And her assistant was like, how about the cover? And I said, of course, Janet Jackson can have the cover of my. So maybe that was the start of volume 2. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
So this is Rochelle. We're getting close to the end. I do believe, and the Matrix. This is one of the first shots I did, and this is Jamal Sims. He's a choreographer, dancer for major movies and TV shows, and he's everywhere. And this is on a rooftop at a studio downtown LA. And I just really liked his style, and I really wanted to do this shot. I always point out the bullets that he's dodging because people don't tend to not see those. And this, he's on an apple box. He's on an apple box. And we obviously took it out because I did plates and we cleared it up. But it's such a throwback to Keanu Reeves. And when I see the execution of it, even though I did it, I'm just really proud of it because it's exactly what I saw. And, you know, without people to collaborate with, you know, an idea is just an idea. I can't draw, so I couldn't have drawn it. So I needed people to come in and sort of put themselves in these awkward situations and moments to make it happen. This is all natural light outside. That's the sunlight and its shades, because I really wanted that quality to come across as well. So that's the Matrix. Is that it? Oh, Mr. Tom Cruise inspired Mission Impossible with Corbin Bleu. So I told you I used to refer to my book as Black Hollywood Book Project. So, you know, we had him sort of come down into this space and give the Tom Cruise angle. And I shot this at Coyote Studios, and it's so many things happened this way. I'm going to tell a really quick story. I was there to shoot Corbin. I think I showed up at 7 a.m. He wasn't showing up until 7 p.m. But, you know, I couldn't afford to have people there all day. So people would show up to help me around 2. So, but I knew I could do all the things I needed to do to get certain things done. And apparently they had just shot Supergirl at the studio like that weekend. So they didn't come yet to pick up this white almost like podium that she was on to make it look like she was flying up or flying down. And when I got to the studio, it was still in there. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm shooting him today, and this piece of equipment is here. This is going to be perfect. So we literally put him on that piece of equipment where he was leaning over with, I think I had a laptop on the ground, and he's just pretending to type. And then there's a different shot where he's preventing himself. I'm not sure if it's here, but he's preventing himself from touching the ground, and it's sort of a tight shot. Like I said, it's really, really cool to go back and see some of the stuff on the YouTube channel. And I just like the way it came out, you know. So there it is. Oh, that's the shot I was just talking about. Because we lowered him, and I lit this floor. It's just plexiglass, white plexiglass with heads under the floor. And we shot it in a way where it wasn't too much as far as an exposure. And obviously we enhanced his reflection, but he has such an intense look about it that I think it just came across perfect. You know, some of the stuff I surprised myself, Frank, because I was like, whoa, there's like a divine thing happening. And I was very happy and excited about it. So that's Mission Impossible. Actually, another side note, Corbin Bleu was supposed to come back, and we were supposed to do Risky Business and Cocktail to keep a Tom Cruise thing going, but I could never get him back. So once again, maybe volume 2, you never know. I think people should make another appearance. James Bond. The cool thing about this is pretty simple. Tuxedo, weapon, but this shot is actually based on, I think, 5 different James Bonds, because I wanted to do something interesting, and I was Googling all this as Roger Moore and Sean Connery. Somebody had created this animation of everybody. And I'm like, wow, that's really, really, really cool. And that's what led us to Mr. Omari Hardwick playing. And then we have the other shot where he's pose between the legs and the high heels, stilettos. But he was very intense and, all that. Now it's conversations about Black James Bonds. And I just sit back and I just like chuckle to myself because I started shooting, I shot this thing over 10 years. And now to hear
right. That's how long. Wow.
yeah, I think my first shot was in 2012 is when I first shot, or 2010. I have to go back and look. But so now to hear people having these conversations, I'm just like, been there, done that, and did a book about it. This is all Garcelle from You're Gonna Have to Face It, You're Addicted to Love, Robert Palmer. And if you probably could tell, I like putting people, the same person in all these different spots, and they like it, particularly when they see the finished product. So I wanted her to be on stage playing the guitar, the percussion, the tambourine, and just having a blast like a party. All her based on those 1980s videos that we all know and love, Addicted to Love and I Didn't Mean to Turn You On and all those things. Because the girl was always the same. And for Robert, I made her, Shania Twain, maybe 15 years ago, did a music video where she sort of used the inspiration from Robert Palmer as well, but this is how she was dressed. So I just made her Shania, as opposed to putting her on a suit, I just made her Shania Twain. And I thought that was more, ironic, if you will. So that's Addicted to Love. Psycho. So when this is she was married to Cress Williams at the time, who I told you I didn't have, when I met with him, I didn't have any images at all. And they said, yeah, we'll do it. And I saw her hair. Her hair is what made me want to do her as the character in Psycho. And when we got to the stage, a girl was like, hey, I have all these different wigs. Do you want a wig on her? I said, no, we're not going to do a wig. Let's just do this. I learned in school about the glycerin in the water to beat up the shower. And here's another secret. This is a piece of linoleum from Home Depot that I bought for like $22. And I shot against it and I returned it.
There you go.
Because I didn't need it and I couldn't rent a bathroom and I just needed once again. And I think her daughter was literally standing right at her waist right here. And she said, she goes, I don't want to scream because I don't want to upset my daughter. I said, okay, you can just act it out. So she acted it out a few times. And then her daughter goes, Mommy, scream. So it was fun. And when she actually screamed, this is the shot we got. And it's actually life size, hanging up in Quixote Studios right now. And I just love Simbi for giving herself so much to me and the idea. So obviously it's clear that she did that.
Great.
Singing in the Rain. This is Dule Hill. And I almost got in trouble shooting in the studio with actual water because they didn't know it. But I had all of my assistants like wrap every pack with 6 trash bags, keep the water off the ground. We'll shoot and then stop and then shoot and then stop. I did not have a rain machine, so we had to use fans and all that. And it worked. And we didn't ruin any packs. We didn't ruin any lights. The shot came out just spectacularly. I went to rent this pole. I rented this pole, and he gave himself. And I didn't know he was, at the time, I didn't know he was a trained tap dancer. So it really loans himself to who he is and what he does. As far as the background, I went to the back lot at Universal where they have all these old streets set up. I kind of snuck back there and I did a bunch of raw pictures of the little storefronts, and we used one of them for this shot. So, kudos to Mr. Gene Kelly. Okay, this is where we end. So this is the lovely, beautiful Amber Stevens West. I saw Amber at a party about 6 months before I shot this picture. And when I saw her she possessed this thing, and I literally said Audrey Hepburn, Audrey Hepburn, Audrey Hepburn, Audrey Hepburn. And I didn't say anything to her. I contacted the mutual friends party that we were at, and I said, hey, I really need to shoot Amber as Audrey Hepburn, Breakfast at Tiffany's. And he goes, okay, I'll let her know. And he did. And she got in touch with me, and I said, yeah, this is what I want to do. And there's actually a video of her. She's so young, and she's talking about how it was really funny that I approached her to do Audrey Hepburn because she only had pictures of hanging up in her house of her family and Audrey Hepburn. So she goes, out of everybody you could have chosen, it was just so funny you chose her. And when I got my book deal, they did a series of tests to see which was going to be the cover. And she came back every single time as what people wanted to see on the cover. And obviously I created the shot. I love the shot. It's beautiful. I agreed, and I thought that it was wonderful. So that's my presentation.
That's great. That's
I appreciate you guys.
yeah. You know, make sure you put in the chat room where people can purchase the book, your website, all that information. That would be great. So, because if we could sell some books for you tonight, that would be.
I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. That's a terrific presentation. Thank you very much for doing that. So, and you could stop sharing. What is the determining factor to do book 2? Is that a GoFundMe page?
If I do a book 2, somebody else is going to pay for it. I told you I did all of the the tricks that I could to create a product that I believed in and that I could sort of get behind. And I think we did a really good job. But it's really stressful. You need studios, you need space, you need lighting, you need assistants that know what they're doing. Otherwise, you're doing it yourself. So I don't want to stress as hard as I did the first time. I have some really cool ideas that I did not get an opportunity to do during this
Perseverance
for this version. But I think I'm feeling the itch a little bit to get back out there. And ironically,
you need perseverance.
You need perseverance. Keke Palmer, one of the actresses, just sent me a DM. She goes, I got your book. I love it. Why am I not in it? And because I'm in Hollywood, I have to do the thing where I pretend like I didn't ask you 4 years ago. I'm like, oh, I'll just keep you in mind for the next one. So it's a game. You play it, and then you have to, just smile and create the best that you can.
Yeah, that's a terrific presentation. That was really a lot of fun.
Thank you guys.
Frank, can I ask a question?
Yeah, one thing. You have a standing invitation to come back.
Oh, so wow. I appreciate that.
When you're ready, you let me know. Someone has a question.
Well,
yes. Carell, did anybody write anything as a forward or an afterword to the book? Because there's some legendary actors in iconic in Hollywood, Black actors. Did you have anybody write anything?
Yeah. So Forrest Whitaker wrote us an incredible forward, which I was really happy. I really wanted to get, if I couldn't shoot an Academy Award winner, I really wanted to get one to write a forward. And Niecy Nash wrote an afterwards for us because she was filming that show that's out now, Dahmer. So I kept trying to get her, and she goes, listen, I'm so deep in this character. I just want to go home and rest. And I said, okay, well, if you could just write us afterwards, that would be great. And she has a lot of friends in the book that she makes reference to in the afterwards. So it just worked out perfect.
Great.
We were going to do her as Wonder Woman, just so you know, the two walls closing in. So we might see that in volume 2. I don't know.
There you go. All right. Well, you've got a standing offer. So we'll get Jaime to share his screen, and we'll be with Jaime in 1 minute. Carell, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll find out where I put the links and any support, any follow, tell a friend. I would really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Presentation.
If you go into the chat room there on the bottom, you can put all your contact information and website and book and all of that.
Perfect, guys. Follow me. I'll follow you back. I'm so interested in what everybody has going on. Like, it's really,
all right.
Love artists.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Subscribe. Yeah. Our YouTube page. All right, Jamie, you're on. Hey,
Okay.
Sandy.
Hi,
Uh,
Sandy.
I'm going to show three groups of images. The first group is a series of portraits that I've done throughout my career, some that have been part of assignments and some that have been self-assigned because of concerns that I have as an individual and as a photographer and issues in the country that worry me. So there's a variety of people in the collection that I'm about to show. This is Lucille Harris. He's a legendary rodeo clown. A friend of mine was working for the city of Jacksonville in East Texas, and she alerted me to the fact that, this superstar of the rodeo world was coming. So she made a few phone calls. I called the rodeo guy, who basically said, yeah, just come on down and photograph. I figure I'd have to go through some hoops to it. Not a problem. I told him what I was doing. They let me straight to him. I got in his truck. I photographed him as he was taking his props out, and I sat next to him while he applied his makeup before his show.
Great shot.
This is a portrait of one of the inmates at the Estelle unit in Huntsville, Texas. It's a maximum security prison. This is a wing that contains elderly inmates, and they pretty much gave me free reign to photograph on there. He was just sitting there. I asked him if I could photograph him. The thing that struck me about him was that he's here for the remainder of his life. I have no idea what his crime might have been, but there's a certain sadness and yet some sense of dignity that he's going to be there for the rest of his life.
How'd you get access, Jamie?
I called and I pleaded my case, and they used this particular unit, I guess, as a showcase as to how effective prison life is in Texas. It's not. It's a very depressing place. And I was there most of an afternoon photographing these men. There's a gallery on my website that contains other photographs if you're interested. But this is one of my favorites because he's making direct eye contact with me and the viewer of the photograph. And you don't have the luxury of looking away. He's staring straight at you. This is Ramon Romero. He's a Democrat representative for the Northern District of Fort Worth. This was done on assignment for the Texas Tribune. I shot this last year. This is, there's no introduction. This is B.B. King. I got to photograph him twice and got to meet him in person. Very, very nice man. Just an unbelievable, warm, welcoming, grandfatherly figure, and I'm still in awe that I was allowed to photograph. This is John Landau. He's the producer for Avatar, among many other films. This was shot in Tyler, Texas. He was invited to give a talk to the students for the film program there, and I had about 20 minutes with him, and he was photographed on the sound stage that the school has. I talked to the person in charge. I said, "Can I use the stage?" And they said that was no problem. This couch, for some reason, was there, and I asked them if I could use the lighting they had as a theater, and they put one spotlight on him. We started just chatting and talking, and I just kept shooting and talking to him and photographing, and this is my favorite of the whole series.
And Jamie, this shot, is he
Yes.
acting for you, or is he just communicating with you, and this is his emotion.
That's it. He's just explaining things to me. I was
Wow.
just asking questions. One thing that I tend to have work for me is that I am sincerely curious. So when I'm asking questions, it's because I really do want to know what I'm asking about. It's not just asking questions to fill a silence or whatever. So once you develop a rapport with a person, it's just another human being you're talking to. And you just got involved explaining the stuff, and his gesture just, it's right there. That's what he was doing. This is a group of young men I photographed in New Orleans. This is an interesting story. This is during Mardi Gras. This was in 2013. After I photographed these guys, I started walking down the street, and they started walking parallel next to me. And apparently the leader of the gang, the guy on the left giving me the finger, started taunting me. I'm walking down the street, and it's getting more and more aggressive as I'm walking. And it's like, I'm going to get my ass kicked. A little farther down the street, there's a family, and there's this gigantic man barbecuing with his family. I smiled at his little daughter. She smiled back at me. When he looked at me, he smiled at me too. So I said, this is my out of the situation. I approached the family and struck a conversation with him. It's like, there's no way these guys are gonna jump me in front of this guy. They kept walking. I engaged the family for a little while. They kept going all the way down the block and disappeared. I walked the other way, and there's the picture, and I didn't get my ass kicked. This is one of those happy moments where it almost was, but wasn't. And this is one, a photograph from Mardi Gras as well. This was published some time ago in a book called Pictures from the World, I think it was. It came out in Blurb. I can't really remember the title of it, but this was one of the images chosen. This one, and a photograph of somebody photographed in Burning Man in 2016. So that's one folder of images. And this is a folder of images that deal with protests. This was photographed immediately after Donald Trump became president, and this was the first women's march. So about 30,000 women descended on Austin to pretty much show Trump that they weren't going to take his attitude. And this is 3 generations of the same family: mom on the left, daughter in the middle, and grandma on the right.
Wow.
This is on the same march. I spotted her about 50 feet down, and I just made a beeline for her. Said, stop, I have to photograph you. And she just gave me this look that is not defiant, but shows you that there's just no fear, and she's supposed to be there. And the fact that she's got this flag draped over her shoulders pretty much tells you, what she's about.
And Jaime, you're shooting for yourself, shooting for publication?
This was all shot for myself. This is all self-assigned work. This was previous to that. This is from 2010. There was a massive immigration march in Dallas, and I went on my own and photographed the protest. And these are students from, I have all their names, from different universities of the area, demonstrating that immigration is, that not the bad word has become since. And I'm a firm believer in affirming your rights to say who you are and be who you are. And this is one of the photographs that came out of that particular shoot.
And Jaime, are they saying the national anthem? Why are their hands on?
They are. They
They
are.
are. Okay.
They are. Yes. And we have a mix of different people. We have a Black young man, we have a couple of Latinas, and a white girl behind, which pretty much drives the message that, you know, young people are definitely ahead of the curve. They always are. I always say that my money's on the young, because if it isn't, you know, betting on the old man is not our best bet. This was shot later. This is shot a couple of years back. This is before the COVID. Actually, this is during the COVID pandemic. This is a protest against the governor's, you know, Roe hadn't been eliminated yet, but it was on the horizon that it was going to be struck down. And the fact that this woman is dressed like
Judge.
the justices, like Ginsburg and not Ginsburg. I can't come up with a name right now. And the uterus made of papier mache is pretty clear what they're talking about. This is a more recent image. Again, this is self-assigned. This was Trump's first campaign stop in Waco, which coincided with the debacle at the Branch Davidian that had 82 people died in the fire, which is shocking, and not to him, but to me it was. And I just went over and started photographing people, and this is a group of young supporters waiting to go into the tarmac to go see their idol. This is another portrait of some of the people that were there. The woman on the left was in jail for 112 days for participating in the insurrection of January 6th. And the man on the right, who only said his name was T, of course, Vietnamese man from Houston, posed for a portrait for me. And go ahead.
Yeah, Jamie, I mean, because I'm going to go out on a limb here.
Sure.
Most of us have not been in that space.
Right.
What is it like to be around, I don't know, 500 people who all see the world totally different than the way you see it? Like, what do you get at it? I mean, like what's in the air?
I'm going to give you an analogy that might ring with some people. It's like Disneyland on acid. I mean, it's a circus atmosphere. It's magical realism.
Oh,
We're
God.
photographing this, and
This thing,
I
man.
mean, this is reality, but
Scary.
yeah, it's definitely where we are as a country. And
That's fucked.
I think my job as a photographer is to mirror that. I mean, I see myself as a witness more than anything else as a photojournalist. So
Disneyland on acid.
I struck a conversation with all these people. I mean, they seem pretty nice. It's just
Well, that's what makes it scary. Because I mean, like, you know, you see
Scary.
them, you know, in your coffee shop, you know, it's fine. Like, yeah.
These people waited for 6 hours in over 100-degree temperature to go into a tarmac.
They're brain dead.
Yeah, and then go in there and listen to Trump for an hour and a half in over 100 degrees again. I didn't go into the tarmac. To me, what mattered was the audience. I wasn't going to photograph Trump. I wasn't interested in that. I was interested in who are the people that follow Donald Trump. And this in no way is an image to support that point of view. Is just an image to show this is where we're at.
Hundreds
Go ahead.
Hmm.
And this is an image from a protest in Austin. This was photographed last year. This is a reaction right before Roe was repealed. I followed the crowd down the street to the left. There was a long line of policemen waiting for pretty much everybody coming their way. The riot police was just waiting to go into action. Nothing happened because what they were waiting for was for the crowd to continue marching towards them. They didn't. They went through a different street and nothing happened. But even though Texas is an extremely conservative state, there is definitely voices of dissent all over the place. And again, this is self-assigned. Nobody sent me to do this assignment. And this was shot in 2021 during the March for Our Lives march in Dallas. This girl was walking around with this sign. I just stopped her. It's like, I need to photograph you.
Yeah, I have to say, Debbie puts in a great line. I love how you get in there and they don't see you. It's great. That's absolutely true, Debbie.
Thank you. I think that's the last image of that group. And then the next group of images is only a few. It's an ongoing project of something that at this point I'm calling markers, and you'll see in a minute why I call it that. There are no people in the photographs. These are images of signs, icons, street signs that people voluntarily put in front of their homes or put on billboards to show their point of view. And I chose to photograph in towns that are away from the urban setting, which is basically, if you think, where most of the Trump supporters come from. If you look at a state like Texas, every single big city, major city, except for Amarillo, has a Democrat as a mayor. It's the little towns where this hatred is festering, and I'll show you those images now. This is the back of a car that my wife and myself were vacationing for the weekend in the coast in Rockport, which is on the Gulf. And I was a little frustrated because I don't want to be taking touristy shots because I'm just not interested in that. But we're walking around and I stumbled on this. And if you look at the symbols, what LGBT means for this individual, it's pretty self-explanatory. And I think that it shows kind of the political undercurrent the country is going through. Something that I noticed as soon as Barack Obama was president, we saw an uptick in racist diatribe, in people joining hate groups. The number of hate group membership went through the roof. You wouldn't believe the stuff that you would see on stickers in cars. And I think from that point on, there was a visceral reaction from white supremacy in the country. So I decided to photograph the markers, not the people. Plus, many of these people don't want to be photographed for obvious reasons. This is a series of things for sale that a man I encountered on a state highway was selling. I mean, last time I checked, brass knuckles are illegal. And if you look at the symbols attached to the brass knuckles and the paraphernalia being shown, it's a veiled opinion about what he stands for and the kind of merchandise that he's trying to push. And this is a broken storefront that I stumbled upon a few months back. This is in the town of Montague. And what keeps coming up is that this hatred is not gone. We thought things had been improving for a while in the country. I mean, that's my opinion, but it's not difficult to see. And now we are in a position as a country where there is definitely a pretty open threat with this type of mentality. And this is the last image, which
Wow.
is funny because you have to have some levity, or this was an Emory, and that's the last image of the presentation. I thank you for your for your presence. I mean,
Wow.
having me here.
Jamie, on that previous slide, like when you see these things and you go to these places, I'm like, well, like when I see this, or I mean, or I see some of the bumper stickers, like I actually could find myself being frightened.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
how did I end up here? This is not good.
You stumble at this stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
we're driving down a country road and boom, there it is.
Right, like that country road. Yeah.
It's to me, it's very disturbing. I mean, on the opposite pole politically to this point of view. This is, again, I'm trying to mirror something it should be very concerning to all of us as a society and as a country.
Is this all in Texas? All these images?
This is all in Texas, yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's crazy. Great, wonderful presentation, Jamie.
Thank you.
I know it was a long time coming to have you.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, I'm glad you did that. Yeah, and there's, if you go to Jamie's website, you see a lot of incredible work there. This is one of photojournalists, great shooters. I'm thrilled to have Jamie on. So yeah, we could open up. Anyone has any questions? I agree with you, Linda. 2 great presentations tonight. Yeah. Jamie, put your website in the chat room so people can Michelle has a good point to keep on working on that. That's an interesting project, those signs.
Thank you. I will. I've been shooting this for the past 3 years.
Right.
Maybe it'll become a book. At this point, I'm not sure. This is my website. This is my Instagram handle. Please drop by and say hello, and I'll see what you're doing.
Yeah. No, that's,
thank you very much.
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's an interesting comment Michelle had. I think sometimes when you strip the people out, the scenery and signage speaks even louder. Very
That's
true.
I agree, Michelle.
Yeah, it's yeah. But yeah, terrific presentations. And I want to thank everyone for coming. Like I said, Jay, we can unmute anybody if anyone has any questions. And Jamie, that you have a standing offer. Yeah. In fact, that's the impetus, Jamie. Keep on shooting so that you have to come back and show us more and more.
Thank you very much.
It'll
be a pleasure. Thank you.
It's funny when you said to me, I'm just shooting, I'm going to show signs. I saw one that was funny the other day, that it was a small one, and it says, "Don't be a dick." Like it was just like funny in its stupidity, like, I was hoping that was in there.
Born in Texas fund.
It's a different world. Really
Yeah,
is.
it is. And Carell, you have to do the second book. You have to. You know, we're going to push you to do that and get us more stories. So the behind the scenes, is that all on your website, Carell?
Behind the scenes, there's a YouTube channel called Black Hollywood Book Project, and there's actually behind the scenes documentary in the making through a company out of Miami, but it just shows setting up, lighting, and all that. So yes, that Black Hollywood Book Project on YouTube.
Yeah, and any interviews in that, in your collection?
Yeah, I don't know if I've compiled them, but there's several. If you Google Carell Augustus, because when I was on my book tour, interviews were coming out of the woodwork, and I interviewed with podcasters and NPR. So it's a lot of Spectrum News did a great piece. So we're just going to compile them and throw them all in one place at some point.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's in Chicago. I'll be at ClickCon in August, the beginning of August, to talk about the book and teach some classes. And
when you're in Chicago, there's a photographer, Sandro Miller, and he did a book with or a collection with John Malkovich.
Oh.
And he shot Malkovich doing iconic images.
Oh yeah, I remember. I've seen that.
He's Meryl Streep and this one and that one.
Yeah.
The migrant worker. It's an interesting project.
It's very nice. Yeah.
And he's a good guy.
Sandro Miller, is that his name?
Sandro Miller.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure you tell him, that we spoke. He'll invite you to the studio and show you everything. Really good, really like real Chicago guy. Good guy. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen some of those shots. I've seen some of those.
Yeah. So I thank everyone for coming in. If you both look into the chat room there, you'll see everyone's love both presentations tonight. So we really appreciate it. And like I said, I want you to come back and and show us more work. Jamie, we'll give you the last words tonight. Send us off, Jamie.
Projections is such a great platform. Incredibly grateful to Frank and Jay, who's behind the curtain doing magic so this doesn't crash. And the presenters, Carell, your work is mind-blowingly good, and it's great to meet you.
You too. Likewise.
And I thank all of you for giving us your time. Thank you very much. You have a good evening. We'll see you next time.
All right, Carell, you get the last word.
No, I was just going to say thank you to Jamie for putting yourself in those situations to let us live vicariously through your lens, because I know that's not easy. And sometimes people see you shooting certain pictures and they think you're going to go make fun of them. And you're like, no, I'm just here as a journalist. So I appreciate you putting yourself on the line, and I will be following you and keeping tabs and create.
Likewise. Thank you, man.
Great. Thanks, everyone.